if somebody called you and they were doing their due diligence on Legacy Farmer and kind of sitting on the fence, what would you say to that person if they called you?
Well, the first thing is you have to put it in that it's an investment because it's not free. It's an investment, and you better put it in your budget. And on day one, you'll pay for it. That's my brother. After we had our first meeting, my brother called. He said, "You paid for it the first day." 1 year later, I'm like 1 year into it. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Paid for.
Okay, JB, thanks for joining me today, man, on this call. So, for the person watching this conversation right now, if you could just start off by sharing your name, where you guys live, and a little bit of information about your farm.
JB Debnam. We live in Chestertown, Maryland, which is on the Delmarva, which is between the Chesapeake Bay and Atlantic Ocean. We're on the bay. We farm right around 2,000 acres. About 1,000 of it's custom, 1,000 rented and owned. And right now, it's my dad, my son, and my niece. So it's three generations.
Yep. Yep. So probably a lot of weight there and things that you feel on that, trying to make sure you're passing it on to son and niece as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, great. So what were the things, JB, that you were dealing with, and kind of talk and share about your journey into Legacy Farmer? So what was not working, and then how did you find Legacy Farmer, and really what content did you consume that ultimately got you moving forward?
Well, I'm probably a little different than most. I came back here at the age of 50 couple. So I'd actually worked on transition of two generations instead of one generation and waiting 20 years. I'm trying to get it so that my generation, the next generation, almost setting it up at the same time. That's my biggest struggle. How do I do that? Because I mean, transition was not going to be an issue because there was probably not going to be the operation was not going to continue. The ground might not be here, but since I'm back and they're back, we're trying to get our ducks in a row now.
Yeah, try to figure out how to make sure the next generation can carry it on and expand
Yeah,
with it, and it can support multiple families potentially in the
yeah.
future. Yeah. What content? I'm just curious. What content did you consume prior to coming into Legacy Farmer?
I started listening to the podcast that you had on a trip one time and spread it probably over 3 or 4 days, and it went pretty fast from there.
Yeah. What was some? I'm just curious. What was some of the content and stuff and things that I was saying in the podcast that really connected with the problems that you were dealing with at that time?
Transition's the biggest thing. There was no transition planning per se as far as the operation because we didn't think the operation was going to really continue. My dad's 80. We thought we'd be finished basically. We
Yeah.
closed the doors, and instead of that, it's kind of gone the other way now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So when it comes to transition planning and stuff like that, what were the specifics around that, around those problems? Was it financial? Was it knowing how to have the conversations? Was it knowing how to structure estate planning? What was it there specifically for you, or was it a mixture of all three?
everything. The biggest thing was everything was owned personally, which sends all kinds of red flags as far as liability.
Yep.
So we set up some LLCs and hopefully have fixed some of those problems.
Yeah.
You've helped us get through all of that. The right questions to ask the lawyers, those sort of things, the accountants.
Yep.
So
Yep. For sure. What about on the financial side? What were you guys struggling with there?
we had QuickBooks, but we were basically looking 60 days out, 90 days out. Now we're looking year, 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah. The information and stuff that you kind of came across in here, and with our software farmer metrics and things like that, have you ever seen your numbers structured or positioned in that way before?
Never. The cash to me, the cash flow analysis. I never knew. Yeah, I knew when we got all of a sudden the line of credits
Yep.
maxed out, and you're like, oh, wonder why that happened. Well, now if you get all your numbers in line, you can see I better find a little bit more money in August. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
everything's ready to come out, but it hasn't. So
Yeah.
it's good.
How did you deal with the stress and everything when you knew that the line of credit was maxed out and you really didn't know where you're at financially, right? You had QuickBooks, but again, as you've learned, QuickBooks is different than cash
Oh,
flow. Actually,
it's a total different number. I mean, the QuickBooks report and your report is two different things.
yep.
So, and yours is how we get day to day to the next day.
Yep. Yep.
So
For sure. For sure. So thinking about how old is Wyatt? Your son?
24.
Yeah, 24. So go back to JB being 24 and working on the farm, right? And not working at John Deere where you were at that time. How much different would the operation be for you now if you would have had kind of this information back at age 24 versus where you're at now?
Probably a lot different. I'm a kid of the 80s, so my parents are in, as you would say, scarcity mindset.
Yep.
Everything is, they've been through it all,
Yep.
like everybody did in the 80s.
80s. Yeah.
And I don't know if I had this, I probably would have rolled the dice a little more instead of backtracking to go get a W-2 job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and what I mean there is just being able to have the numbers structured and organized so that you're making sound business decisions and just really just having confidence in your decision versus you probably felt for the last few years that you kind of been shooting from the hip, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So, yeah, we kind of covered what would change or what kind of changed there for you. When we think about everything that we do in Legacy Farmer, right? We have obviously the financial side and, working with us and our team and me and things like that on the consulting and training and education side, but then we also have the community side as well. What would you say is your favorite thing about Legacy Farmer and where are all the areas that you're finding the most value?
I would think the community part of it, people that are not actually, say they're in the cattle industry, they have the same problems we do, and they're all the way across the country. Everybody has the same issues. One thing I think is kind of nice is everyone in the county is your competition, whether you like to think so or not.
Yep.
And in that group, there's no competition. It's
Yep.
a good group. I've been to two of the quarterly live meetings, and it's good to meet all those people. They
Yep.
all have, you come out of there, every time you talk to one of them, you're like, maybe I should try that. Or they,
Yeah.
and it, we've all done it wrong. I mean, they'll say, oh, don't do that. Oh, I wouldn't, so we learn by wrong things too. So
Yeah, kind of, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It kind of goes back to, and I've shared this on a lot of calls, is the majority of success is found in learning what not to do versus
yeah,
learning what to do. Right. So
yeah,
even having you now, or even Wyatt at age 24, and being in a room like that to where he can learn all these these things of what not to do at 24.
yeah,
How many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, can he save over the next 2 decades by just hearing the results of those mistakes that people made?
right,
Right.
right.
How it impacted them not across just business, but family life and kids and all the stuff that we deal with as business owners.
And I mean, we talk a lot about mental health and not just the money part of it.
Yep.
There's a lot of other things going on.
Yeah. We can try to, obviously our goal is to fix the financial problems, right? And help you guys, all of you guys do that. But then after we fix the financial problems, then we're just left with the real problems.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, great, man. So let's say somebody called you JB, because I think you called one of our other customers, Jay Baxter, and
Hmm.
somebody called you and they were doing their due diligence on Legacy Farmer and kind of sitting on the fence, wondering whether or not it was for them and wondering whether or not they should take the jump there. What would you say to that person if they called you?
Well, the first thing is you have to put it in that it's an investment because it's not free, it's not cheap,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an investment and you better put it in your budget. And on day one, you'll pay for it. That's my brother. After we had our first meeting, my brother called. He doesn't have anything to do with the farm. I mean, he's involved, but not
Yeah,
totally
I know
involved.
what you mean.
He said, you paid for it the first day. And I, to this day, 1 year later, I'm like 1 year into it. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Paid for it in one day. It's things that you see from afar that as we're close to things, we don't see it.
Well, and even too, like, and all we really did the first day too was just start working through farmer metrics and getting your numbers structured and organized.
Sure.
And you sit there and you wonder, all these kids that go to ag business school and stuff like that, why are they not teaching these things in school? This is
Oh,
there's just a huge disconnect between theory that's taught in the classroom and reality of what it takes to run these things and the information, what we have, the information we have to have and how we have to have it positioned to be able to use it to tell us what we need to do in the operation.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Great, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share this with me. And yeah, anything else you want to share? Are you good to go?
I'm good to go.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Thank you.